G'day YouTubers, thanks for clicking on this video. What this video will be about is bebop lines, and I've written a solo just off my own ideas, of course influenced by the likes of Charlie Parker, Charlie Christian, or years and years of playing different styles and hearing different things, and horn players obviously, and well I said Charlie Parker, so anyway I'm just rambling now. Yeah, today I'll be showing you me playing the solo. I've already recorded that went quite well. Afterwards I'm going to break it down for you. Now if you want to learn it note for note, you can download the tab from here, just for a couple dollars. It's really cheap. If you're really broke and desperate though, you could, or don't have a credit card, you could always email me and I'd probably send it to you anyway. But of course it is nice to get a couple dollars for the hard work. However, you may not need it, because it's as much about the concepts behind each bar as much as anything else. So it's really up to you. But all the options are there one way or another. I hope you enjoy, and thanks for watching. Also, okay, so you just watched the video. You probably saw me also say also and grab my hat. I left that in there. I started talking about this little curve in my hat that drives me really insane. Just try to always straighten it out. Anyway, I cut that off because who needs to hear about that? Now, the solo. So the solo that you just watched, I would watch it a couple times or listen to it a few times to get it in your head. That's one of the first things I want to explain to you, that if you want to do any kind of improvising or soloing or learning any solos for any style, until it's in your head, it's quite hard work. No matter though, if you haven't and you don't have time, or you don't like it enough to listen to it over and over again. Although I like it. I think it sounds kind of nice. Yeah, it doesn't matter because we're going to talk about the concepts. So, let me first explain to you the chords that this is played over. This is based on the changes for... so this is in B flat, which is a very common key for bebop and that kind of thing. But this is based on the au prévert changes, except we're doing it in B flat. So it's always imperative that you learn the chords so you understand the structure that you play over when you improvise. And I am assuming right now that you perhaps are at that point. If you don't know chords or don't know the structures of these things, soloing over bebop's going to be almost impossible. You can still have a lot of fun learning these lines though, so stick with it if you're here anyway. But definitely for you to apply it yourself, it's going to be quite complex. But let me go through the chords, really quickly. In fact, I'll go through the first 4 bars and then we can talk about what I've done in terms of improvising. So now the piece goes, the chords go. Alright, and that concludes our first 4 bars. So we're playing 2 strums per chord, obviously. And then we go to the 4 chord. And this is sort of how it... By the way, this isn't really strictly a blues. It is a 12 bar. I mean, at the end of the day, it's basically a very manipulated blues. This is the development of blues into bebop. Anyhow, so those first 4 chords, I'll tell you what I've done over them and why. So the first thing I do, I think B flat. Now I'm noodling around. There's a B flat major. Now the notes that I'm playing here, I'm sliding obviously from a note, perhaps, I don't know if you know this or not, but right now I'm sliding into a note that is your minor third or a flat third. It's not part of a B flat major strictly, but we can slide from notes that we may not play into notes that we may commonly play, again, strictly speaking. Alright, so here's our first point. Alright, now I'm not really a big fan of just showing licks and these are the licks, go play these licks. I'm more a fan of concepts when I'm teaching because, if someone's going to be a fisherman, they're going to have to catch their own fish eventually. So B flat, and I'm playing, and I think of this upper triad of the chord, okay, sliding into this note. Now Now that's just all B. Just think of it all as B flat major with a little chromatic at the start. The next, and that carries us over the first two chords. Now looking at that second chord can be a little bit paralyzing. This second chord is a B diminished. Now that B diminished, sorry, I was playing B flat 7, then B diminished. You're probably going, well, how did you know what to play over that chord? Well, to be honest, I didn't really think too hard about it. That chord is setting up the C minor 7 before the F7, right? That it mainly sets up that C minor. So I let the chord carry the tension and just try to play melodically, which means you're not thinking too much about what's happening with the chords. You're more thinking about the line itself. It's just a really nice line. You'll also note I can sing the line too because I can hear it in my head, and I can't stress enough. This is probably the most important thing if you want to become, any kind of improvising musician, is to be able to hear these things. If you want to get into bebop, and you're not listening to Charlie Parker and sort of getting a bit later on into guys like Herb Ellis and stuff, who obviously listened a lot, Tal Farlow, who else is there? Of course, Barney Kessel and all of those guys listened. Joe Pass listened a lot to Charlie Parker. I could list a heap of names. But they're the guys, these guys have listened to it so much they can hear the ideas at the right time. Okay, so again, so let me just stress, I don't think too hard over that second chord. It's a joining chord. Okay, to get more complicated, it is a substitution for the G7. Okay, why? Because this is a G7, right? Or whatever the 6 chord 1 6 2 5. May have heard that expression. If not, cool your heels, you'll work it out. Let's keep moving. So we get to we substitute the B diminished 7 because the G7, because we take notes that we could play in a G chord, which is the B, the G is there, and the D natural. Okay, we could even fit the 7 here if we wanted. But then we also play a G sharp, like that. So that's actually a G. That's also, you could also consider that a G7 flat 9. Okay, so if you did want to outline it a little bit more strictly, you could. Okay, now I guarantee if that just got complex for you, you know what? Don't worry about it. You'll come to that eventually. That is arpeggiating. So if you look at the chords to a structure and you realize I can do a G7, so we could do a B flat 7, G7. Okay, once you learn arpeggios, you're going to understand that. But here's a little tip, something great in bebop. Don't worry about your root note. Play the sharp 1 or flat 9, if you will. So B flat 7. Well, let's play a B flat 6. Okay, and then G7 flat 9. Forget about G. Let's play a G sharp or A flat. So all I'm doing is playing a G dominant 7 arpeggio, but I'm taking the G and I'm bringing it up 1. So that's kind of a really cool trick. Really cool sound, Oh, sorry. And getting, so let us go onto the next bar. So there's a couple ideas of playing over the 1 and then that diminished chord a step up. So you can think about arpeggiating over that chord specifically, or you can just play melodically, and especially for that first bar, I'd be thinking melodically, and especially if you're new to this, start learning your arpeggios. But in the meantime, just take your major scale and play around with it. Okay, the next bar. So we're in bar 2 now, the C minor. All right, so that next bar for C minor, at this point, I'm actually thinking. Again, I'm sliding to an E flat here. Okay, that's that entire bar. And what I'm thinking is, I know it plays a C minor. So I'm playing an E flat triad but then I land on the C. So really I'm playing a C minor 7, a C minor arpeggio, a C minor 7 arpeggio, but just starting from the E flat. Then I step chromatically up to the D, which is the 9, just because it sounds good. And then I grab the F sharp there. Now, the reason I play that F sharp is just what I said before. When I was thinking of, when I explained that the second chord being a diminished 7 replaces the G7, and I talked about thinking about a G7 but playing from the G sharp. This is the same concept, okay? So over what the chord here, which would be an F9. I hope I make sense when I talk. Sometimes I feel like I don't. Okay, F9. Just to represent that whole chord, all I'm really doing is grabbing an F sharp. And you're going, but that's an F9 chord. How can you play an F sharp? Well, it works. It sounds cool. If you didn't like it, well, then you come up with your own idea. That's fine. But I'm telling you, it's one of my favorite ideas. So, because you get this. Alright, so this is why it's great to learn your chords, because you're going to hear things in chords that you like, and then you can work it into your solo. You're improvising, and you know, other than just playing major scales and minor scales. Yeah, so that's there's your first 2 bars there. Next line here, alright, so it's the same, it goes to B flat 7 again. This time, the progression I have in mind goes to C minor, C7, and then B flat 7. Now, again, I just think melodically here. Oh. That's the only note that's not in B flat major. So this is something I explained in my other video, is that so much of what you can do is just major scales, but you've just got to be able to hear it, and that comes down to listening a lot. And of course, learn heads. Learn a whole bunch of Charlie Parker heads. You're going to get good eventually in about 10 years. Now, so that minor third into the major third, you'll see that all the time. Okay, they're all notes out of a B flat major. Okay, now obviously, any sticklers out there are going to say, but you're not really playing B flat major, you're playing over a B flat 7. How is that possible? Well, I didn't play the 7. Did you see me play the 7? No. B flat. I didn't play a 7 at all there. So that solves that question. You know, are you playing Mixolydian or are you playing major? Well, I'm kind of playing neither. I'm omitting the 7. And that comes from a major pentatonic idea. So anyway, that covers our next 2 chords, which was and then we end up at the F9 or the F7 again. And at this point, I just do a pentatonic blues. Okay, that's just blues. Because blues scales work all the time anyway, just about. Okay, I don't really need to give you any other explanation. That is just by the way, I know that I'm using a Gretsch today and not a Gibson 175, and that's you're probably used to seeing a 175 in this style, but you can really use any guitar to play anything. I think some guitars channel it better, but hey, this guitar works really cool. It's a 50s based, hollow body, based on a 50s hollow body, and that's the sort of stuff they were using at the time. But yeah, it's kind of cool playing the stuff on a Gretsch. Actually, it's different. Now, so that was bar 4, and that was covering back to B flat 7. I just played B flat minor blues. Now we go to the 4 chord. Alright, so over this 4 bars here, again, hopefully you've listened to this a couple times and you can relate. But anyway, over the E flat, when we go to here. Alright, so all I'm thinking there, an E flat 9 chord, and I'm almost playing the shape of the chord. Okay, then. Now if you think about an E flat 9, we're playing the 6th fret there. I play off the 6, which is the F, or the 9. Now that is just, these two notes are here are out of an E flat major chord. Also found in a B flat major scale. All those notes. So often, if you're just using the notes that are available to you in that key and playing around with them, you can find these ideas. You know, there's so many ways to do these things. And that's why guys like Wes Montgomery may not have learnt their theory, but they can still, you know, get to these things because it still comes down to here. And I think a lot of it's, you know, being slightly crazily focused. Anyway, which I struggle being focused clearly. So we've got that E flat 9, and I just think, you know, notes from that shape. Of course, if you learn your arpeggios, that will also help. The last two notes of that bar, so. Now what I'm doing here, geez, I'm almost not sure. So what actually happens here, the chord goes from an E flat 9 to an E diminished 7. Okay. So what I've done here is I've taken from the arpeggio okay, so that's an E diminished 7 arpeggio, which again is very much like we've gone an E7 flat 9. That same concept we talked about before, where we don't worry about the root note, we play up one. Okay. But you can see this is in chord form. It's the same thing in chord form. Here's an E flat 7. Let's just play it as a chord with that one chord now being played as a flat 9, so pushed up 1 or a sharp 1, which I sometimes hear it called. Okay. So I've just I've walked into an arpeggio of this. So okay. So then we go into you'll have noticed a skip. I had to think about this part. So that next, which is still over the E diminished 7, is, now there's a few things there's a few ways we can talk about this. You know, obviously we're playing over E flat right now. Now that could be considered like an F melodic minor. Okay, over an E diminished 7. I know it's like, what's going on? And okay, yeah, and look, it's an over-intellectualization in my opinion. Basically, we're playing. I just know, right? I've voice led to this note. Alright, and that is based on an F melodic minor idea. But look, I think it's really just an idea that, you know, guys like Charlie Parker developed, because I'll admit straight away, that lick right there, okay, if I play it from, that's very Charlie Parker, you know, that's something that I've probably developed from learning a few of his heads, that very sound. So this is now bar 6 that we're talking about, and that is the last two beats of bar 6. So I'll play bar 5. Alright, yeah, that's all I'm going to say for that. It's just, that's the idea I have. And it took a long time to start developing that kind of vocabulary. Yeah, especially when you sort of look at it and go, well, theoretically, it just sounds cool. You know, that's over the E diminished. Now, I've also remember learning that you could play what's called a half whole scale from the root note of a diminished chord. Okay. So, but it's not particularly resolving, so whichever the case, I really just heard that and I like the sound of it. And then it lands on the... I don't play the root note here of the B flat, because we now return to a B flat, or a B flat 7. I actually play off the 6. So the whole of bar 7 is simply notes out of B flat major. Okay, so that's... and then you saw me play bar 8 just there, which again is over the B diminished 7. So the last these two bars go on, and the lines I play to that, and again over that diminished scale there, or over that B diminished chord. What I'm actually playing here is a B natural, because we've got the B natural there. And I'm playing, this is a G7 flat 9 idea, because remember we talked about, again, this happens so much in bebop, or at least when I'm playing it, that G natural there, I've taken up to a G sharp. But I also play the G natural as well. And I play the B natural borrowed from the idea that we're playing a G7 that has a B natural, or even just simply put, we're playing that B diminished 7 here, and I'm using the concept from a G7 flat 9. You could even, again, it's that half whole thing. So, practice your half whole scales. They actually can come in handy. So if you're not sure what that is, you can look that up as well. Okay, now we're at the last line, and I thank you for sticking with me if you have. This stuff's actually quite complicated, and it can be a little hard to articulate after developing your style for such a long time. You sort of, even in writing it, I wrote it based on what I hear. Anyway, last line. So we're now on the 2 chord, which is the C minor. At this point, I think melodically. Hang on. Alright, I'm looking forward to talking about that a little bit there. So, over C minor, really, that's melodic, it's not something I put tons of thought into. That's, that could be, for all concerned, could be the melody from After You've Gone. After you've gone, etc. So there's times where you're just going to think melodically, and I especially think the last 4 bars of any good bebop solo, when you want to end it or sum it up, the coolest things are going to be quite melodic. And really, it should all be like that to a degree. A great example, Herb Ellis. Check out Herb Ellis's style. Sometimes he gets quite interesting, I think, and a little bit outside, but I think a lot of the time, my favourite parts of his playing, he's very melodic. So over the C minor 7. Okay, I did a terrible job of singing that. I apologise. So that second bar of the last line, bar 10, is the 5 chord. So I wanted to explain this. This is just melodic. This I could consider harmonic, because there is some thought put into what I'm playing against the chord. Alright, so against an F7, which is what we're doing, we're playing an F9 I should say. We're playing the C, which is just the 5 of the F7. I'm playing the 7 flat 9, or the flat 9 of the F, and the flat 7. Okay. Now you could actually look at that as an A flat 7 chord, okay? But we don't want to. That's not the we don't. There's no need to really. We just want to look at that as okay. All right. Again, it's that F7 flat 9. We're not playing the F natural. We can, of course. I probably should have mentioned that before, but okay, it just sounds really cool. All right. So if you did that lick over a C7, did over a D7, okay. So obviously you can see the way once you get these licks up your sleeve, you can play them in any key and they start to become your thing. Like this is, I would like to think, is sort of my thing. I really milk that whole flat 9 thing when I play bebop sort of style. And you'll hear that. It's probably not done quite as well as I would do it now. Obviously, it's something I've been working on. Anyway, last 2 bars. So the chords are... Okay, so what happens here? It's a 1, 6, 2, 5. And again, melodically. So I'm thinking, here's that B flat shape. All from B flat. There's nothing in that lick there that's not in a B flat scale. I hit that too. What's that? Oh, my favorite trick, the flat 9. Okay, and I've done it quite risquély down there on the 6th string, but man, I love that sound. I reckon it sounds really, really cool, and it just sets up the listener for, oh, that's a bit tense, and then you're back into your melody or whatever you want to play. So that's my talk through of what the sort of ideas I use. Again, if you want the tab for that, you can download that. But yeah, the concepts are what I would imagine that if you're advancing and want to get into this more, you should know what a major scale is. You're obviously going to want to know what arpeggios are. Now, I guess this is kind of I'm explaining how I've thrown it all together and the ideas that are in the washing machine, so to speak. Washing machine, that's my head. Yeah, alright, so there you go. I've probably just confused you more about life in general, but hopefully you've got questions, post them, I'll try to answer them. And yeah, I'm really, really stoked with the responses these videos are getting. But and also, if you would like to check out my page, you'll see that there's transcriptions of solo jazz pieces, finger picking pieces, some Chet Atkins stuff. I love all that stuff. Just guitar's really cool and fun, and I hope you're enjoying. So, and please share and like the video. It all really, really helps. It's like if it's not too much just to click on the thumb, helps. If you can comment, helps even more. So that's really appreciated. Thanks a lot for your time, and looking forward to hearing your questions and abuse. No, I'm kidding. See you later.